podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Good job with the shot, and the Slough Jets have taken the lead on the power play. With 23 with the shot for a goal. No need for the save from Lorde, and Campbell finds himself in, and it is 3-1 to the Chelsea Chieftains.
Hello and welcome to Zero Pucks Given, the UK Ice Hockey Podcast. We're in partnership with the Hockey Art Co, hockey clothing for hockey people, worn by the best and hated by the rest. Listeners to Zero Pucks Given and the ZPG network get 10% off everything site-wide at hockeyartclothing.co.uk. Just use the code ZP10 upon checkout to get your discount. We are also in partnership with Manscaped male grooming products, redefining the gentleman across the world. 20% off is the discount you'll get listening to Zero Pucks Given if you use the code 0pucks20, 0pucks20, all caps, all one word, 20% off and free shipping on everything Manscaped with your block and tackle ship shape. And we are on the Sports Social Podcast Network, the largest sports podcast network in Europe, boasting over 500 podcasts from over 18 sports all across Europe. Incredible stuff there to listen to. This is episode 108, or episode 2 of season 3. ZPG 3.0 is in full flow. And last week, after we previewed the Britain Division, as I promised, this week we are going to go oop north and preview the Moralee Division with our main man, the Blackburn Hawks Talk podcast host, 4,000 and counting producer, G-Ham, Graham Houghton. How you doing tonight, fella?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. How are you?
Absolutely wicked. Cannot be more excited for hockey to start again.
Oh, definitely not. Definitely not. Missed it a lot.
We had a couple of pre-season friendlies. I know at Blackburn you had one this weekend.
Yeah, we had the one this weekend against the Sutton Sting from the Ladle of the Div 2. The scoreline, bit of a rugby scoreline, but not much more than I expected, to be honest. There is that massive jump in that we spoke about it last time. Yeah, good bit of confidence to go into the season with, though. It always helps.
Yeah, I suppose that's probably all it really can be. I mean, what we're going to do this week is similar to what I did last week. Alphabetical order. We're going to go through the 10 teams that are in the Moralee this year, because you've got an addition.
We do.
2 down south. You've had 1 addition this year. And we'll just have a little chat about their rosters, of what ticket prices I've been able to locate. I have put in there as well. And just a little bit, not quite predicting exactly where they're going to finish, but a little bit of a thought on will they improve or perhaps will they decline on what they did last year. So we have to start then in the Bs, of course. I comes just before L, doesn't it, in the alphabet? So we're going to have to start over. So last season's Moralee champions, but however they lost the cup final quite emphatically. To yourself.
They did indeed.
Playoff final in a slightly closer game.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're going to be looking to do the same thing again this year, aren't they?
Yeah, I think so. Worthy winners of the league last year. You can never take that away from them. Across the stretch of the season, they were fantastic. Petered off a bit towards the end, and I think that we came into a stride as they sort of dipped off a little bit. But in terms of the off-season for Billingham, it's kind of been a little bit status quo, really. They've not really added anyone. They've brought a couple of players up on 2 ways with the Buccaneers, which they won the playoffs in the Ladle last year, so credit to them. So proving that their pathway is starting to work, that they're trying to put in place. A big loss for Billingham, I think, really, is Tom Brown, the netminder. He's ventured down south to go and play in the National League for the Romford Raiders. Not too sure how much ice time he's going to get, because they've got a strong netminder there, and I think it's Ethan James, isn't it, at the Raiders? Yeah, so I'm not too sure how much ice time he's going to get, but I definitely think he deserves his chance, because I said it on our last podcast that he was the best netminder in the Moralee for me last season, so well deserving of a chance to make the step up. Nice bit of business for them as well was retaining players like Tommy Spraggan and Ian Brown. I did think they might have made the jump up possibly to the National League. So a smart bit of business by them getting them tied down, and also their import, Roland Grittans, which is a prolific goal scorer. So smart bit of business by the Billingham Stars there. They've also kept their main core of players that they've had for some time now, like Chris Sykes, Elder, Moss, Helen. So they've really sort of kept that structure and that core in place. Like I said, they've not really added anyone that I think is going to make a difference to them. But I think that's been quite the same across the North as a whole, really.
Players like Chris Sykes, they're quite talismanic, really, for Billingham, aren't they? As you say, those guys they've had for a long time.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, due to the import changes, I mean, we might touch on that a little bit later on. I think that affected Billingham a little bit more than other teams. It meant that one of their defencemen, Paddy Grigors, has had to make the move to Edinburgh. Obviously, Tony Hand's got connections there, so there might have been something to play with that. I'm not sure. But in terms of Billingham, I can't see them winning the league this year, if I'm being honest. Just they don't seem to have strengthened. They seem to have lost, if anything. Netmining is a big part of hockey, and to lose, like I said, the best netminder in the league last season, I think it's going to hinder them.
Their home opener as well is against the Blackburn Hawks, which is going to be a hell of a start to the season for them.
Yeah, definitely a big test for both teams, and just to see the start for both, how we're both going to get out of the gates, I guess. Like I said, I can't really see them winning the league, but I can 100% see them challenging, because you can never write them off. You can never write the Billingham Stars off. But I think they've missed a trick not bringing in some players. I don't know the reasons behind that. It could be financial, whatever, but I just can't see them winning the league this year.
They seem to have taken inspiration possibly from you and I in starting their own podcast.
They have indeed.
Stars Cast, which has been incredibly successful quite quickly.
We are but shepherds of Division 1 hockey. But yeah, it's a good product. It's been a good thing to listen to, so credit to them. Looking forward to more of them coming out this season as well.
Yeah, this certainly is good to hear, because it's something that a lot of the fans want and almost need, really. They need that.
Oh yeah, 100%.
That little bit of exposure for their players as well.
Yeah, it puts a spotlight on the league, doesn't it? Because you're going to listen to your rivals' podcasts just to see what they're saying about your team as well. So more eyes on the league is a good thing.
Yeah, and of course, as you said, there are a couple of people they've lost that could affect it. Not really brought anybody in. I would expect them to be there or thereabouts, but as you say, I don't expect them to be.
Yeah.
I think there are some teams that have made better signings to strengthen themselves.
No, I agree. It's been, like I said before, that way across the whole of the North. It just seems to be very much status quo. There's been a couple of big names announced and some things that are probably going to come out in the next couple of weeks, I guess, as we head into the season. But like I said, Billingham, they've not strengthened, but they've kept that core, like I said. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them challenging, but I just don't think it's going to be their year.
No, as you say, I reckon then as we move on, we'll go slightly across the west, up to the Darwin County area. To the Hawks. Last season, obviously, as we've stated, Moralee Cup and Great Northern Finals winners at Sheffield. So the weekend pre-season victory against Sutton Sting, does that really do anything to tank a team 17-0? Is it just confidence?
I'd say so, yeah. I don't understand why we didn't have a competitive friendly. I don't know if there's some logistics involved. I know there's been some back and forth with the season starting fixtures. There was some back and forth with some teams there. And I just don't think we could get a competitive friendly in with a team in our league or maybe the league above. But it's good for the Sutton Sting to get some ice time against a higher opposition. Like I said, it may be a confidence thing, but it's not really fun. I suppose once you've stood up for 10 goals, it's getting a bit repetitive after that point. But a couple of young lads have the debuts that shone as well. And yeah, it's a confidence thing, I think. Good thing to take into the season.
I mean, do correct me on my pronunciation, but Noah, is it Karainen?
Karainen, I think. I've been trying to work it out myself.
You got something special there, I think, haven't you?
100%, yeah. Talented player. Hat-trick on his debut. Not many players do that in this sport. I think at Blackburn, one of the only other ones was a certain Kieran Brown.
Yeah, I saw that on their socials. I thought that was a great little stat.
Yeah, so not bad footsteps to follow in.
Put too much pressure on him, of course, because he's fully aware of who Kieran Brown is and what he's gone on to do.
Definitely, but he's a superb talent. I've watched him in training a couple of times. He seems very hungry for the game. He's played junior at Manchester Storm's Academy. He's played over in Finland as well in the juniors, which is, like we all know, is no joke over there. It's legit. He's an exciting player. He's been away with GB as well recently, so very, very exciting young player.
So you'll also then have a few more trophies up for grabs. Is the M56 Cup going ahead again this year?
No, we're not going to be competing in that, and the Northern League isn't going to happen again this year.
No. So you won't be playing the Scottish teams in that?
Yeah, which, like we touched on the last podcast, did it hinder our chances of winning the league, possibly? Would I have liked to compete in it again? Yeah, I guess. It's always nice to have a trip across the border to get a look at the SNL. That's a good standard of hockey up there. It's extra gates for the club in terms of revenue, but there's also the expense of getting buses up there, which is, you know, yourself with travel costs, it's astronomical, isn't it? And it's only going up. So there's obviously some logistics and costing involved in the reasons why we're not competing in those, but it just puts more focus on the league and the playoffs for us.
Well, I think the way that they've kind of restructured the league with having the 10 teams now in the third tier, both north and south, we're going to be having a solid 36 game league season.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of hockey to try and squeeze in. So the cup has been done to take in the first couple of home and away games to put that league table, and the other cup has kind of been scrapped. And I mean, already from how it was announced that the South was going to do top six splitting into two groups of three, they've already had to scrap that because they just cannot get the ice time. So we'll be running the same format of top 8, quarterfinals, semi-finals.
Yeah.
Before everyone goes to meet at the surprise venue that no one's been told yet. For the national playoff finals in April. So
yeah.
Actually discussed the last time you were on, didn't we?
We did. I wonder where they got that idea from.
So that perhaps Blackburn and Chelmsford should play each other in a competitive pre-season friendly for some sort of playoff charity shield.
Well, we could find out in April, couldn't we?
We could well do. I mean, both leagues I think are going to be incredibly competitive this year.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Down south, actually, I think that Streatham, who won the league and a couple of the cups, I think they've actually strengthened, so that could make it really exciting down here. But as you say, with Billingham possibly being slightly weaker, Blackburn strengthening, and some other teams we get to also strengthening, it's going to be an incredibly exciting time. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, along with Noah, we've brought in some other young lads as well. Dara Sporforth, come out of Bradford. He's on a freeway deal. I don't know if you've seen that on social media with the Steel Dogs, the Blackburn Hawks, and also the Bradford Bulldogs. Superb talent again. We've done some great recruiting with these younger players to help with this pathway that the Hawks are really trying to put in place and help develop players and also help us become sustainable as a club as well. He's a fantastic player. Liam Hine as well, another young lad, recently been away with GB as well himself. And there's Bailey Thompson as well. Bailey Thomas.
Yeah, which I mean, ticket price for Blackburn this year, I think it's £13 for an adult. Is that subject to the 12% Planet Ice ticket fee if you book online?
I think so, yeah. I think that's in place, yeah, which it is what it is. We could get very political about Planet Ice, couldn't we? It could take a turn, but I don't think £13 too bad for the standard of hockey you're getting, especially when you look at the prices of football. I mean, we've got a championship football side, not quite across the road, but down the road, and they're charging double that. So in terms of value for money, it's not too bad. And the early bird season tickets for an adult at Blackburn were £180.
Yeah, that's incredible value.
I think they've done it in stages, so it's increased a little bit now, but it's really not bad value at all.
No, and as I say, unfortunately, it's probably better to book tickets in advance for Blackburn because they've got a good fan base, and it does.
Yeah, we do. We have quite a loyal supporters. in terms of like selling it out, I don't think they're anywhere close to anything like that yet. But the numbers are increasing, and obviously that's the plan, isn't it? To sell out hockey across the board, really, get them queuing at the doors.
And as the football team get worse, I'm sure that will help that.
Going to do all right this year, mate. We're going to do all right this year.
So yeah, I expect Blackburn to be pushing hard. I would say definitely top two. And I'm really, really looking forward to seeing how Cara Rayanen it's on. Really, really looking forward to that one.
I mean, along with those young lads, we've kept a huge chunk of our roster, like Billingham have also done. We've kept the likes of Adam Barnes, which I've said previously is the best forward in the league for me, the best player in this league. We've kept Jacob Lutwich again. Both of those players should be playing at a high level. We're incredibly lucky to have them at Blackburn. Young talent as well, Josh Crowley. I don't know if you've heard much about him. He's recently been playing with the Manchester Storm in their exhibition games. So was Noah Kariainen as well.
Excellent stuff. Yeah,
so the pathway between the two teams is strengthening.
Yeah, well, something I'm sure we may well touch on towards the end, that England ice hockey and UK ice hockey are now playing ball together, which is fantastic to see. So that kind of thing, we're going to see more of it, and that can only be a good thing for the sport as a whole. Yeah,
100%. And one thing I will say as well about the Hawks in terms of like the squad and the roster we've kept, Ben Keddy, our starting netminder, he's going to be the number one netminder in our league without a doubt this season. He was very close behind Tom Brown last year, so he's going to be exciting to watch. I'm just incredibly excited. I mean, it's so hard this not to be so biased. I'm a passionate fan of the club, but from the last time we spoke, I said we had the best top six in our league. We've kept all those players. We're gonna do well this year. It's gonna be a good season for the Hawks.
And stylish jerseys as well, which is always nice to see. The jerseys look good.
Yeah, they look very good. There's been lots of comments online of how they resemble the German jerseys and things like that, but they're not very bad at hockey, so not bad footsteps to be in.
No, to be fair, it's kind of hard to avoid the German thing when you've got that red, yellow and black sort of going.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they look great. I think Blackburn are going to have a great year. And I'm pretty sure we'll see them in Sheffield in April, where I'm sure both me and you will be hanging around at some point.
Certainly. Looking forward to it already.
Let's head down the M56 then and across the Welsh border and go and have a look at the Dragons. The D-side Dragons celebrating their 50th year this season. Congratulations to them.
Yeah, congrats, guys.
It's something quite impressive. As I said on the previous episode where we did the Britain, they have got an extra competition this year with the reinstation of the Welsh Cup.
Yeah.
That could be really quite an interesting one because Cardiff they've come up, they've kept a lot of their roster from the Wilkinson division, but they have made additions with former Britain division players to kind of bring that experience level up.
Yeah.
I think D-side will be looking at this thinking, we can take this.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they're a very capable roster, D-side. I suppose it's good, like we touched on the last podcast, it's good to see these North and South games and this sort of like crossover cups because, again, it's something we mentioned on the previous podcast. In terms of the Cardiff side, I'm not 100% sure on them. From the stuff I've read online, you've pretty much just said it, to be honest. They seem to have strengthened a little bit. So if I was a betting man, I'd probably say D-side is theirs to lose, but you know what hockey's like, it can change on a knife edge, can't it?
Yeah, and we'll know by the end of September. There are 2 games are planned in for the first month of the season, so we will know who's done that from there. But as we said, I mean, if you look at the step up in the divisions from the 2 to the 1, the step is massive. So, I mean, I said those Cardiff boys, if they don't know how hard it's going to be, they'll find out in their first couple of games just how hard it's going to be.
Very quickly, yeah. Good introduction, though, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing like getting in the deep end, is there, to sort of see if you can swim. But, I mean, with what D-side have done, they've also spawned the D-side Ducks this year.
They have, yeah.
Are they tapping into... Is there a massive resource of players in that area?
I think so. I think they've done a lot in terms of their academy and things like that. There's a couple of teams around here that have got that. Obviously, Leeds is one. The Dragons, Billingham as well. These teams creating these pathways seems to be the way forward. A little bit like the the sort of NHL, AHL, ECHL, that sort of farming system. It's something we've needed in British hockey for a very long time, because for me, I think I said it last time, I'm not sure, Div 2, you should be playing in that league when you're 16 to 18, but you should have moved on when you're 18 into Div 1 and then upwards.
Obviously,
So,
I didn't personally, you can commit to the scheduling and whatnot.
yeah, of course, yeah. Div 2, I think it's only going to get better because there's more teams coming in, I think. Would Blackburn have one? I'm not sure. It's probably the conversation's been had at some point, but it seems to be the way forward for a lot of teams. Sheffield have had it for a long time. They've had the Titans and the Scimitars or the Spartans previous and things like that. So they've always had a team in every sort of competitive adult league right the way to the top. And development, our league and Div 2 are classed as development leagues, aren't they? That's what they're classed as. So Div 2 teams coming in and creating this pathway is only a good thing.
Yeah, and like you say, I would imagine that a lot of the players in these new spawn sides will be, 16 to 18, because then they're getting junior hockey as well, so they're getting themselves some ice time, which is really, really good to see. Obviously, just don't want to see them taking too many Tonkins, but they're joining. It should be quite competitive because all the other teams should be kind of the same.
Yeah.
Blend of junior players and older players that can't commit to a 36-game season.
Definitely. I mean, with the Dragons, like I said, I believe they've got quite a good academy there. They've got a lot of the Dragons players that are involved in training some of the junior players. I'm not too sure on the name, the Ducks. I wasn't a massive fan. I thought they could have played more in the Welsh element or something like that. But I suppose once you've got the Dragons, I don't think there's a lot other places to go, is there really?
No, I mean, like the Leaks or the Rams or something like that, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. But it's good. It's good.
So, and I think the duck logo just looks awesome. However spawn it, the duck logo looks awesome.
Yeah, they've done a good job with that, I think. Yeah, I'd agree there.
But yeah, as I say, a lot of retentions has been the case in a lot of up north. So a couple of new faces, and they've also spawned their own podcast as well with the Puck and Dragon, which should also be the name of the bar at Flint Ice. That's got to happen, I think.
Yeah, they've done well with that podcast. I've watched them on YouTube recently, so shout out to those guys. They've done a really good job.
Yeah, it's so good to see. Just because I mean, obviously when I first started, I wasn't really aware of anybody, and then you reached out to me from doing Hawks Talk, and now it's just seemed to have grown massively, and they're everywhere, which is so good to see.
No, yeah, I mean when we started doing the Hawks Talk one just after COVID, there wasn't many sort of like official club podcasts, and I think being an official club one, it's a little bit, you've got easier access to players and things like that. You don't have as much pushback from the club and things like that, because obviously they want to use it as a marketing outlet as well and a way to get information across. But equally important is podcasts like yours, 4,000 counting, 3 on 3, giving that independent look across the thing as well, across the leagues, and it's good. It's just how it's grown in this past 4 years, and that after that first conversation me and you had, how many new podcasts have sprouted up?
It's astonishing. So many people have got so much spare time.
I know. I find myself struggling to find time to do it all myself.
So yeah, I would expect D-side actually to be that second team that are up there with Blackburn this year. I think it's going to be between those two.
Oh, okay. They've got a decent roster, the Dragons. As I said it last time, I have a soft spot for some of the players that played for the Hawks previously. They're a very capable side throughout the roster. I think they're running a little bit lower on numbers in terms of what they had last year. Some additions they've had have been the Phillips brothers, one of which played for the Hawks last year. So he's coming off the back of a successful season. He was injured for a good chunk of last year as well. That's Charles Phillips. And his brother Henry, I think his name is. They've both signed for the Dragons this year. No coincidence that both brothers are signed for the same team. But I think they'll be ones to watch, definitely. Will Harper has moved across from the Widnes Wild, which is... There's 3 sort of core teams in the Northwest, isn't there? There's us, the D-side Dragons and the Widnes Wild, so there's that good little bit of rivalry. So it's interesting to see Will make the jump from the Wild to the Dragons. I think he'll fit in with their style of play and how their head coach Mike Clancy coaches. I think he's going to slot right in. There's no secret he's very good at getting under people's skin and winding people up. Plays a bit gritty as well, like a Brad Marchand role, I think is the best way of putting it. He does his job and he does it well.
But they'll also face the Sutton Sting in pre. Oh no, tell a lie. That's actually the whole Jets. They'll face the Sutton Sting. We've sort of skipped on from there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you expect them to push you hard?
The Dragons, they always do. The games between the Hawks and the Dragons are games that you sort of circle in your calendar when you get your fixture list, because it's always going to be a gritty, a tough game. That's the kind of hockey they play. A couple of solid players from last season, Ross Kennedy, which made the drop down from the Telford Tigers, fantastic player. Another player that I don't think they've signed, and I can't seem to find if he's gone anywhere, was Brodie Jessens.
Yeah.
He was a fantastic player. He'll be a loss for the Dragons if he's not signed on for this season, but I don't think I've seen him sign anywhere. I could be wrong. I'm sure someone will at me in the comments. But they're running a little bit lower on last year, and they've not really, I feel like I'm just repeating myself, but they've not really bought anyone of value in, really. I'm not saying the roster that they've got isn't a great roster, because it is. I mean, you don't finish the fourth in our league last year without being a decent side. And I mentioned previously about the players that play for the Hawks, the likes of James Parsons, Matt Wainwright, Petr Valusiak, who I chirp all the time and tell him he's average. He's not. I just like winding him up. Jared Dickinson and MJ Clancy as well. So there's some good players at D-side, and they are a good side. I can't see them finishing in the top three, I'll be honest. I think it's going to be so competitive this year, our league, so competitive. We touched on it last time about the Solway Sharks making that jump up and how it opened our league up. And this year it's going to be even more competitive, I think. I think that them places from sort of like fourth down to seventh, that's going to be such a battle. I think you're going to be talking like single points difference between it. It's going to be really, really close. And I think D-side are going to be in the... I can't see them breaking top three, but fourth or fifth I can see them finishing.
Excellent stuff. Well, we'll head from Wales over to the east side, the colder area of the east side, further up in Humber. So the whole Jets, they've had some good new signings this year. Nathan Britton's a big signing for them, coming from Widnes.
Definitely, they've strengthened in a lot of areas. I think they're going to be the ones to watch this season. I really do. I mean, you might have seen the signing of Vlad Volkanovs.
Yeah, that's coming down from the Steel Dogs. That's
a 50 point plus season in the National League. That's no joke. So he's very capable of putting some points on the board. They had a solid start to life in the Moralee last season. I think a lot of people underestimated them when they came in. They made the rink, a fortress. So it was a tough place to go, and I think a lot of teams struggled when they were there. I think if you can do that, turn your barn into a fortress, it makes you a formidable team to go and play against. And it's quite a bit of a distance as well, Hull, from where like the Hawks are and things like that. It's right across.
I was going to say, do you think that plays a part in the Moralee as a whole? Because there's no real short away trips. So do you think every home team has got that little advantage of having the legs in the first couple of periods? I
think, yeah, I'd probably agree with that to a degree. I mean, speaking from a Hawks perspective, you've got Widnes, which is about 35, 40 minutes away. You've got D-side, which is an hour away. Then after that, you've got Sheffield, which is just under 2 hours. You've got Hull, which is about 2.5, I think. A similar amount of time to Billingham, and then a little bit more to get up to Whitley. So there is quite a bit of travelling time. You're a little bit more compact in the south, aren't you?
Well, kind of. I mean, we could add up from Chelmsford. We've got Romford, which is obviously only 20 minutes away Invicta, which is just under an hour. But then you're looking at Solent, 2.5.
Yeah, similar then.
Cardiff's a 4-hour jaunt, really, from over where we are. I know that they should be really taking advantage of that. Every team that comes to their rink,
100%.
They should be on everybody in the first period because those legs are going to be a little bit stiff.
Maybe we could just stick D-side and Cardiff in their own league, just leave them. Maybe sprout another Welsh team in the middle or something like that. See if Ryan Reynolds wants to buy one.
Yeah, someone like an Aberystwyth or something like that.
Maybe Swansea, the Swansea Seagulls or something like that. But yeah, going back to Hull, they've worked on a good relationship as well with the Seahawks. There's a lot of players on two ways there this year.
They did really the Seahawks, didn't they? They were kind of flew under the radar.
Yeah, great team. Matty Davis has done a fantastic job there. The National League's a hard league to jump into, isn't it? And they've improved every year, so it'd be interesting to see. And they've made some good signings themselves this year. Some of these lads on two ways that we're going to see in the Moralee are fantastic players. Reese Edwards, Alex Kent, Cohen Taylor. There's another young lad as well on a two-way with the Steel Dogs, Jacob Brammer.
Yeah.
So for the Jets, there's a lot of young lads that have got bright futures, and they've got to put themselves in the spotlight and in the shop window. And like I said before, I think Hull are going to be one of the ones to watch this season as a whole.
Yeah, as you say, looking through their roster, they do have some players actually that really, really could lay some points down in the Moralee and really give them a bit of a boost. And as we said, having that little bit of a distance to travel out to Hull, they could be putting up some results.
Oh no, 100%. Have you ever been to Hull's rink? Have you ever ventured that far north?
Been past it. I've worked in Hull a few times.
Yeah.
Past the ice rink, but yeah, it's I'm in Essex. Everything's a long way from me.
But like I said on the last one, you'll have to wear two coats when you sort of get past Birmingham. That's when you'll need to put another coat on. But
it's just drop. Every mile I go up north, the temperature just drops.
You just see it on your dashboard when you're driving. Yeah, they made their rink into a fortress last season. Can they do it again this year? Only time will tell. If they can, with the roster that they've put together, like I said, I think they'll be in the mix, definitely. I have them finishing fourth and fifth. Between them and D-side in that spot, I can't see them breaking the top three, but they're definitely going to be one of the teams to watch this season. It's just going to be so competitive. This is hard to do. It's so hard.
I think they've got incredible value for money as well. It's £8 for an adult ticket for a home game, that's 50% less than the most expensive ticket in the Britain division.
That's what value. You could argue that could be because they've got a National League team that play out of the same facility, so they've got to try and compete against them. But you can't even complain about that value. It's fantastic, isn't it?
I mean, I think as well, there's actually discounts for sort of Seahawks season ticket holders if you wanted to go and see the Jets.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah,
which is a fantastic thing to see because regardless of who's playing in the rink, you want people in there, don't you? So
definitely, and with the standard of our league improving every season, £8 a ticket is a steal. And as a away fan, you've got your travel expenses on top of that. Ticket price is a factor, and you can't complain at £8, can you? I mean, being in Essex, you probably can't buy a pint for £8, can you?
I mean, it's not just exclusive to Essex. I was in Ireland a couple of weeks ago. And
Temple Bar
in Dublin was €10 for a pint of Guinness.
As a Northerner, I take actual offence to that.
I couldn't believe it. I went in there, I got 2 pints of Guinness and a lime and soda, and she was like €26, please. I was like,
I'm just giving you your car keys. Just have them.
Yeah, no, certainly can't complain about £8 for a ticket. And I imagine that the bar is probably reasonably priced in there as well.
Yeah, they do good chips at Hull, if I remember rightly. I think they're quite good. They're not as good as Whitley's, but they're up there.
Oh, well, that's a seaside town, and it's a proper seaside town, so they've got to have good chips.
Yeah.
So I think with their roster they put together, they could make a push. Maybe certainly a dark horse for making the playoff finals.
Yeah, I agree. I'd agree with that. Yeah.
Especially getting towards the end of the season, they could sort of try and put their eggs in that basket. That's
Yeah, and with the relationship they've got with the Seahawks as well, they've got the players on two ways. How much of a factor, how much ice time are they going to get for the Seahawks versus the Jets and vice versa? You might see that come into play towards the end of the season. But they've got some solid players as well, like Sir Richard Hagger. He's a great player at our level, and also their netminder Zach Brown. Ethan Daintiff as well. He's another young talent, one to watch definitely. I think if I had to pick one team, like I said before, to be the ones to watch this season, I think it's going to be them, I think.
Yeah, excellent stuff. Head then back into Yorkshire and to the Castle.
Leeds Knights 2.
So the Leeds Knights 2, I believe they're going by.
Yeah.
The NIHL 1, which is ever so slightly confusing. New kids on the block, though, really. They're currently Elite Prospects only has their roster at 15 strong. There doesn't seem to be a great deal of social media presence for the Leeds Knights 2 just yet.
No, I don't think they've got their own social media. I think they're utilising the Leeds Knights 1, which I'm not too sure if that's the same case with Swindon and the Swindon Wildcats 2.
So have got their own.
Okay.
Managers, and the guys that are running it have told me they want to make quite a big deal out of their social media this year.
I think it's obviously something the Leeds Knights are missing a trick on then. They're a completely unknown element, aren't they? They're a brand new team. I love the idea, like I said before, about the farm system and developing these players. Again, like D-side, Leeds have got quite a stacked academy, so providing a pathway to players that when they're reaching that age of 16, they've got somewhere to go in the same system all the way up to the National League and one of the best teams in the National League. And if that's your end goal, you've got a route to do that now, haven't you, with having the Leeds 2 team?
And they're seeing the players, in the National, the likes of Ollie Endicott, Kieran Brown, being offered 2 ways into the Elite League as well, which is fantastic to see.
Yeah, definitely. Kieran Brown, I'd love to see him in the Elite League. I hope it'll happen one day. I can probably see him going to Europe as opposed to having a 2-way or something with the Elite League. I don't think he can do a 2-way now. I think he might be too old, actually. I'm not sure.
I can't. The phrasing was used for the players that are going to be almost like trialists at Elite League teams coming from the National League. Obviously, we've had one player from this level sort of skip it entirely in Brindley Caps and make his way to the Coventry Blaze. I think he's actually moved up there now as well. They're going all in on this young man.
Definitely.
But it's
not a bad player, though.
Oh, it's an astonishing player to watch. It's really, even when he doesn't play for your team, you can watch him and just, he's great.
That's one thing I like about hockey is that you don't feel as bad as you would in football. A player that plays for another team, I think you can appreciate it a little bit more, just with the skill involved in the sport. Yeah, and just being a bit sentimental there or something, I guess. But
yeah, I mean, from the roster that they've got, it does include Owen Dell, who's been impressive at this level over the last couple of years.
Was it the Invicta Dynamos he was with previously?
I think he went and played out in the States, and then he came to Invicta. And he was really impressive there the last couple of years. So he could well be the talisman for those Knights up in Leeds.
I think he's been away with GB under-20s, I think. I could be wrong. When they announced the Leeds Knights 2, in our league, there was a lot of fans. I wasn't included this. I wasn't bothered. But across the North one, because we don't have a massive pool of players currently, so everyone was thinking they're just going to take all the players that we've got. And I was like, it's not going to work like that. People are going to go there because they want to develop. And if you have a good locker room, you've got good facilities for your players, you look after your players, why would you want to go and play elsewhere? It really didn't faze me. I was more excited about having a 10-team league, really, because it's a nice round number. And it's 4 extra games a season. And the more the merrier, more teams, bring them on, keep them coming. In terms of our pool of players, like I was saying, it's quite small. So I can understand why people thought they might have taken players off different teams and things like that. But from looking at the roster, they don't appear to. I don't know what your take on this is as well, with them being a new team, them coming into Div 1 straight away.
Yeah, I've got that down. That is that the right place for them? Should they've really started in the 2?
Personally, I think they should have started in the 2. There's a couple of factors for that. Firstly, a while ago now, Solway did it. They played one season in Div 1. They wiped the floor with everyone and jumped up, but they did a season in there. And for me, you should for a couple of reasons. One, to prove you're financially sustainable. I know they're part of the bigger leagues, nights outfits, but that doesn't mean to say they've got an endless pot of money. Hockey's an expensive sport. Ice time's expensive. So being able to prove that you're financially sustainable, also that you've got a roster of players that can fulfill your fixtures. No one wants to win a league on forfeited games, do they?
No.
And I suppose it's fair, isn't it? If you went out tomorrow and started a Sunday League football team, you've got to start at the bottom, haven't you, and work your way up.
You have, yeah. I mean, like I say, was there really anybody in the Laidler, though, that is pushing to come into the Moralee? That's my only other playing devil's advocate with it, is I agree, yes, you should start at the bottom and should you work your way up. But if there's no one in the Laidler that's saying, oh, hang on a minute, we want that space, you need to go down here, then...
That's a great thing, great question, because Telford are probably the team that would be closest to making a jump up. And for whatever reason they haven't done, so there's obviously reasons why. I'm guessing they don't know if they could compete at our level because there is a big jump. I did think that Telford would have made the jump up this season.
Could it also be fulfilling the fixtures, playing out the same rink as a National League team?
Yeah, no, that's a valid point. It's hard in hockey, isn't it? Because there's no promotion and relegation, and being British, we're used to that culture in football and other sports. That's how it works.
It's just, I mean, in the summer, I spoke to Hayden Hunter from England Ice Hockey, who will be coming on the podcast this season, and he said it was discussed. It was put in there. It was almost not a cat amongst the pigeons, but just to say, look, let's discuss it.
Yeah.
Do you want it? And I think the problem is for teams, especially at our level, that consistently finish in the lower half of the league, a relegation could probably finish them. And then that's no good.
That's a valid point.
But I think the hockey fans themselves they're more comfortable with the franchise idea.
Yeah.
The promotion relegation.
I would agree with that, yeah.
And I think then you can see that it does work, because if a team does put their hand up and say, yep, we want to go, like Bristol Pitbulls, they did it a couple of years ago. They left the Britain, went to the National. Solway Sharks obviously done an incredible job on their step up to the National. So
yeah, fantastic.
I do agree that it should sort of stay the way that it is, and I kind of agree with you that they perhaps should have started in IHL 2. But if none of those other sides were saying, actually, we want the space in the Moralee, then more power to them.
Yeah, look, a nice 10-team league is something that I've wanted for a while. I do think they should have done a season in Div 2, but I'm not in charge of the league. I suppose I'm allowed an opinion, but I'm on board with it now. I'm happy they're here. Let's go. Another team to beat.
Proper jeopardy. Some proper jeopardy for playoffs as well. You're going to have two teams that miss out.
No. It's more to fight for, isn't it? Yeah.
New point system. That's going to make it really, really interesting.
What do you think about it?
I really like it, because I don't think there was ever a stage last season or over the last few years when I've been watching hockey where I'm thinking they're playing for the draw. They're playing to go to overtime or go to a shootout. You'd never see that. But if there's points at stake, I think you get to that later part of the season, and now there's jeopardy for playoff places. You'll see, 3-3 draws and goalies getting pulled in the last 30 seconds to go and get the win, because they need 3 points, not 2.
Yeah, it brings us more into line with Europe as well, I think, doesn't it? I think most of Europe plays that, and like you say, you've got to play for that extra point because they will matter at the end of the season, especially with how competitive our league is going to be. It's going to be an exciting season.
Like I say, we're never going to be the NHL over here, so it's kind of pointless to stick with that for the sake of, that's how the NHL do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the popular thing, isn't it, just to follow that culture because it is the biggest league in the world. But like you say, it's not necessarily the right thing to do.
No, not for. And as when I spoke to Hayden, all the points that were put forward, it was put to the clubs. It was a democracy that they didn't sit there and point fingers at saying we're going to do this and we're going to do that and we're going to do this and you're going to like it. They put it out and it was a conversation. That's why some of the leagues had different playoff structures or different cup structures because they said, look, this works better for us or that works better for us. And it kind of feels like it might even be like the first time that everyone's ears have been open. It's a very old school saying that if you're talking, you're not listening. And I think a lot of the time they actually sat down with the clubs and they listened to what the clubs wanted. The things with the playoff semi-finals now, the clubs have wanted that for a long time because they're losing out on so much income by having the semi-finals at a neutral venue.
Yeah, that's true.
Have that full barn. That's thousands of pounds that they're missing out on, which they're now going to get. So, I just think it's all. Obviously, the last couple of years we've had DOPS issues, we've had issues left, right, and centre. I finally think now it's like peacetime, and everyone's moving together as well.
I think England ice hockey. I've spoke about it a lot on social media and on other podcasts and been quite vocal about things, but I definitely think they've made massive steps in the right direction. The transparency is a lot better than it ever has been. We'll see how DOPS works out this season and how that's going to benefit or hinder teams. We can only wait and see. But with everything else, it seems to be a complete breath of fresh air from speaking to some of the ownership of the Hawks, having these meetings about like fixtures, everyone getting in a room together, just working on it as a group of teams, not as like a dictatorship and being told what you're doing. Opening them lines of communication, like the things like proposing the relegation thing. The teams are paying the money to compete in these leagues. They deserve to have a say in it, and it sounds like they're having it now.
I mean, I've skipped over this when we were on D side. They were one of the clubs that did come forward and say they had issue with the fixtures after they were released. I'm
trying to think of a political answer here.
They not make the meeting or what sort of worked out with it, but I understand it's kind of all been sorted now and some things have been moved to.
Yeah, I think originally when the first fixtures came out, we were meant to play the Dragons on the 1st of September, which for whatever reason they couldn't play. I'm really trying my hardest here. For me, if you're not at a meeting that everyone else was at, that's your loss. You weren't there to have your say. That's what the meeting's there for. But then again, it is what it is, isn't it? If someone can't do fixtures for whatever reason, if players aren't available, if coaches are away or things like that, whatever the reasons may be, it is what it is. It's frustrating because we could have got our season going next weekend, but we'll just have to wait to beat them a little bit later in the season.
We got kind of off topic there with Leeds, but it's good to see them in there. Do you think the MO is going to be don't finish 10th?
Yeah, I've been having this conversation with a lot of like the Hawks fans and other fans from different clubs around our league. I can see them finishing bottom two. I can see them finishing 9th as opposed to 10th, if I'm being honest, because they've got players like Bailey Pierre, I think that's how you pronounce his name. He's on a two-way with the national side. He seems like he's going to be a legit player and a great talent. He's been away with GB under 20s, I think. Again, I could be wrong. They're going to have a netminder on a two-way. I don't know if this has been announced yet, but I've said it now. Harrison Walker, I think he was a backup for the Knights National League team last season. I believe he's going to be on a two-way, so that's not a bad netminder to have. And a question is how often are they going to utilise two ways throughout the season? Because if you find out that your team's getting rugby scored every weekend, and you've got a farm of players likes of Innes Gallagher that is eligible to be on a two-way, and some of the younger players like Finn Braden, do they then come on a two-way with the Knights 2 team and come down? How's that going to work? Because I suppose in the terms of development, getting them ice time, if they're not getting it with the national side, give it with the two side. Because where they'd be playing bottom 6 minutes as a forward, you're going to be playing top 6 minutes as a forward.
Yeah. I mean, one that hasn't actually been announced, I'm pretty sure hasn't been announced anywhere for this year, is Luca Tasadri.
Yes, yeah.
Leeds Knights last year, and with the Widnes Wild for most of the season. So he could well be a good signing for the Leeds Knights 1, because he's at that level, he's astonishing. Yeah,
he's a great netminder. He's a nice lad as well. I think he had some health complications, wasn't it, towards the end of last season?
An ear problem, I think, that was affecting him quite bad. I caught up with him very briefly at the Southern Finals at Ali Pali.
Yeah.
Yeah, he seemed in good spirits.
There's a player that they've signed as well, the Knights 2, from, I think he's from Sheffield. Yeah, he is. I hope I pronounce this correct. Fritz Heinzel. He's a talented player that was with the Sims last season, and obviously Owen Dell we've mentioned before. There's another player as well that was part of the Hawks Academy, and then he went on to join the Leeds Academy. Noah Percivalli, I believe he signed on with the Knights too. So it'd be good from a Hawks fan perspective to see him progress. Unfortunately not in a Hawks shirt, but we'll see what happens with his career going forward. But it's a good thing to have a 10th team in the league. Like I was talking to one of the Hawks Talk presenters, Aidan, he's a co-host on there, and we was joking about seeing Kieran Brown wheeling around the National One League. I said, it's not going to happen. I can see some of the other players, like I said before, like Innes Gallagher, maybe Finn Braden. I doubt it though. More Innes, I think, out of those two. And obviously Bailey, utilising them two ways, because that's the whole part of the team, isn't it? To develop. It's a farm, the feeder team. So it's theirs to use and abuse, I guess. Like I said, I can't see them making the playoffs. I could be wrong. I mean, there's going to be some more players announced, surely, because you can't compete with that roster. Like you said before, there's not a lot publicised, is there? So I'm sure there's some big signings coming in soon, I would imagine, maybe. And yeah, we'll just see what happens, I guess, with them. Like I said before, completely unknown element, aren't they? So
They are indeed. So heading a little bit further south from Yorkshire down into Nottinghamshire, and we'll go and check on the Lions.
Nottingham Lions.
So the Nottingham Lions, they'll start early this year against the Sims, which I think is this weekend coming.
Yeah.
They've done some good work on their roster from last year. Callum Worthington-Edens and Scott Venus are really good additions.
Yeah. They're always a team for me. The Moralee for me fits into there's three brackets. There's your top teams, your middle, and then your bottom enders, and they always come in the bottom end for me. But this year it could be the year that it changes for them, I guess. Something cool that the club do, just slightly off topic, is they stream the games on YouTube. I don't know if you've seen that.
I've got that down to say that I think that's a great thing. Yeah,
it's fantastic. It's good as an away fan, especially if you're playing them on a Sunday night at 7 o'clock face-off and travelling back to the northwest. It's quite a long jaunt, that. But the major news for the Lions, I guess, was there's been one major departure and one major addition. The departure is Zach Yokoyama, the pantomime villain of the Moralee, a player that you love on your team, but you hate him when he's playing for the opposition. He's getting his chance with the Telford Tigers in the National League. He deserves it. He's a great player. There's questions, I guess, around his attitude from people around that play and at that level. So we'll have to see how that pans out. I think going to Telford is probably the right move if that's a question people are asking. He's very capable of scoring. Like Will Harper, he's very, very good at getting in your ear. Loves a chirp. But it's part of the game, isn't it?
It is. Do you think that attitude can be a problem with some young players when they are good? Is it knowing that they're good can become a bit of a problem?
Yeah, I think that's a case in any sport and in any walk of life, isn't it? I guess in hockey though, there's the chance that if you're very cocky and like that with your mouth, that you're going to get a slap in the mouth, which is part of the fun.
But the only thing is, then you don't want to see players, not playing or teams losing good players for non-hockey reasons.
No, I agree.
And I think it's such a responsibility on the coaching staff and the people around the squad to keep it emotionally level.
Yeah, keep it disciplined. Yeah.
And that's such a big thing, because we're not talking, like we talked about Sunday League football earlier. You might have 12, 13 guys. You're talking 20, 25 guys that you've got to keep from falling out, essentially. In a sport that's combative, requires a bit of attitude. And I think that's a huge deal. And I think we've seen it across the sport a little bit this year, maybe in previous years as well, where players are leaving teams or leaving the sport because mentally it's not right.
There's a funny story just around the Sunday League football. I'm probably going to get this completely wrong. My dad used to a pub team. He was like a coach or something like that. It was a bit of fun. And they turned up one Sunday, and then a load of police vans come and arrested half of the players, and they had to forfeit the game because they'd all been in a fight the night before in a pub.
Where I grew up in Essex, there was one guy. It was a half decent player. He actually lives around the corner from me now, which is quite weird. But he had like the biggest house of any of the guys that played football. And if you woke up on a Sunday morning and you were 5 or 6 players short, if you knocked on his door, you'd find him. You'd get at least 5 or 6 ringers out of his house on a Sunday morning.
Super, love that. But yeah, I think you're right, and they're not getting paid at this level, are they? So they've got to enjoy it and want to play. Well, they're not making.
It's certainly not a living, is it?
No, 100%. It's a side hustle.
Yeah, a little side hustle, a little bit of fuel money. I don't know if there's some imports that are on, certainly not enough to live on, but enough to keep them out of trouble. But
yeah, potentially.
I think we're seeing it a lot more in the Britain than we are the Moralee. There's a lot of National League players in the Britain division this year.
Yeah.
And they're going to be requiring something, because that disparity is becoming huge. I don't disagree, but then I kind of also do disagree with people when they say the gap is getting bigger between the National League and the Britain and the Moralee, like just the second and third tier in general. The problem is for me that the National League is not offering enough for what it is to the players. The commitment that's required to play the National League, it's not paying that sort of money.
I think we touched on the last episode I was on. This level of hockey for me offers the most for players because some players get paid or get expenses, or they get their equipment paid for, so it's not costing them to play. It gives you good work-life hockey balance. You're not playing every weekend, 2 nights a weekend. You're only training once, twice a week. And if you've got a day job on top of that, you've got a family. It's a good balance, and it's a good standard of hockey.
And
I think
because of that.
Yeah. I think the jump between the National and the Div 1, National League fans will probably think it's bigger than it is, but it's still massive. I don't think we'd compete. I don't know. It's difficult until you see it, isn't it? I guess.
Yeah, I think. I mean, the level up there it is good. It is good to watch. There's certainly less icing, if anything. But
yeah.
For that level, it's good to see that the players of that level they're not too proud or too up themselves to come and play in the third tier, and they come there and they enjoy it, and it's that they enjoy it, which makes the fans enjoy it even more. Lions as well, similar to Sheffield that we'll get to. It's a hotbed of ice hockey as a city. They've elite league sides that are doing the business, and I think that having that pathway there, it's a massive jump, of course, from the Lions to the Panthers, but it's having a club of that size playing out in Nottingham I know they have confirmed, not entirely confirmed where all their games are going to be played this year at home, but they are hoping few on the main pad, which can only do good things for them.
Yeah, of course it can. It's a fantastic arena. I was there over just before the start of the summer with 4,000 boys. That was a good weekend, a great facility. And it's if you've got that facility, you'd want to play in it, wouldn't you? As opposed to the other pad that they've got. But the facility as a whole at Nottingham's fantastic. There's lots of stuff in there. With the Lions, it's a funny one really, because I've always liked the fact that they were the whipping boys for such a long time, but they seem to just keep going and not stopping and not getting disheartened. They just kept playing every week and giving you a game, not just turning up and, oh, we're going to get beat today. But they came and gave you a game every time, and that was something I respected about them for a long time.
When you say like the league can kind of be separated into different groups,
yeah,
thinking that you got the Lions, the Sims, and probably the Knights are going to be fighting for 8.
Yeah, I think so. I think out of the ones you've listed there, I think the Lions will finish the higher out of them all. I can see them coming sort of 7th, 8th. It might surprise you the team I've got finishing bottom as it stands currently, but I think the addition of Alice Padalecki, that's a name quite well known around British hockey. It was probably the shock signing of the summer, I think, with us having not a lot of movement of players. It definitely stuck out. But is he Zach's replacement? I don't know. Is that the way they've looked at it? And I believe there's going to be some kind of role for him within the junior system. Within, like you're saying before, that jump to the Panthers is massive, and having someone with good experience can only be a benefit to them. So, I mean, how old is he? He must be like mid-40s, 44 or something like that.
Took care of himself, though.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's more of an athlete than I am, but it's a fast league. It's a physical league. I think he must have got something like around 30, 40 points last year. I could be wrong. Again, someone will at me in the comments. Is he capable of lighting it up in our league? Yeah, of course he is. He's just won a national playoff title. But is he going to make as much of an impact as people might think he might do? Is he Zach's replacement, who was a prolific goal scorer for him? I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. There's some other good players there. Toby Fisher, Tyler Somerton. They've got some decent players at Nottingham who, because they've had them years of being the whipping boys, they've gained that experience and they've improved, and they've had a solid core for a long time. So it'd be interesting to see how it all pans out for them. In terms of how it's all gone, one major departure, one major addition. I can see him finishing no higher than 7th. I think that's where they'll finish, 7th, if I had to put a number on it. So slightly better than what they've done previously.
Yeah, which, as you say, with the increased amount of fixtures and competitiveness, I don't think that's a bad thing at all.
No, definitely not. Definitely.
Right, so back up to Yorkshire then, and unfortunately to the team that did finish bottom of the league last year. The Sheffield Scimitars. It is the UK city of hockey. I don't think there's any two ways about that.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It's a big arena. We've got teams in all the leagues. The Steel Dogs doing some impressive things with Jamie McElroy at the helm now. And that pathway that has been really opened up in Sheffield across the leagues. So obviously the Steelers had an incredible year last year.
Yeah.
Steel Dogs will hope to do a little bit better. But with the addition of the Leeds Knights as well into the thing, it's going to be another don't finish 10th, isn't it?
I think they're going to have a better finish than they've done in previous years. I think with the addition of Leeds and another team in the league not strengthening at all, I think it's only going to help the Scimitars. I mentioned it earlier. One thing I always respected about Sheffield is they had a team in every league going forward, right the way from Div 2 to the Elite League. How much that's going to benefit the Scimitars, I'm not sure whether they're going to come under the same umbrella at some point. I guess it would make sense, because then what a sell that is to young academy players. You can play in all these leagues and make your way right to the top.
Yeah.
Whether that'll happen, or I'm not sure. I think in terms of the Steel Dogs, I tweeted that because of Jamie Mack that they were stacked, because the Steel Dogs look to be quite an impressive outfit this year. They've definitely strengthened in the right areas as well. There's a lot of players that play for the Scimitars that are on two ways with the Steel Dogs. And also we mentioned him earlier, Jacob Brammer at the Hull Jets. But with the the Scimitars, there's Aaron Dancer. Is it Aidan Dancer, sorry. There's too many players, isn't there, in our level? Aidan Dancer was with the Steel Dogs last year. He's with the Sims and the Steel Dogs again on a two-way. Michael Deneco, I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm sorry if I'm butchering these names. So you've got players that are already on that pathway up to the Steel Dogs, then can progress up to the Steelers potentially. There's some losses that they've had as well. Tyler Nixon, who was one of their main point scorers last year, I think he's down Romford. I could be wrong. I think he's gone down to the Romford Raiders. So he's made the jump up, deservingly, of course. You've got, like I mentioned before, Jacob Brammer, Fritz Heinzel. He's made the cross to Leeds, so they've lost some players there, but they've also strengthened as well. Matthew Croyle, who was a netminder for the D-side Dragons last year, he's made the jump across to the Scimitars, which is somewhere they lacked, I think, in terms of depth as well. Not a lot of goalies for the Scimitars. They've got a girl that plays for them as well, Scarlett. I can't mind her surname. Pardon, sorry?
Scarlett Cooper?
It could be. I'm not sure. I'm sorry if you're listening, Scarlett. Every credit to you for playing at our level. So Matt coming in, I think, is a good addition for them.
Scarlett Richardson. Beg our pardon, Scarlett Richardson.
We weren't far off.
Ross Campbell Pywell as well, who was the coach last year. He's joined the Invicta Dynamos down south. But they've also gained from South too in Josh Fall.
Yes.
Lots of Warriors. He's someone who has stepped into the Chieftains once or twice as well. He is a good talent.
I'm excited to see him play. There's also Pywell, I forgot about that. That's a loss. Marcus Facker coming from the Hawks. He's a depth player. So he's a solid sort of 7 out of 10 every game, which is, I think he might break into their top 6 later in the season. We'll have to wait and see. But the Scimitars, I think they'll have a better season. Along with the Lions, I think them two will finish higher than they would have done in previous years. Whether that's just the addition of the new team coming in and not being the whipping boys anymore, but we'll have to wait and see. But I think the Sims will finish no higher than 8th. I think they'll finish 8th.
Yeah. I mean, it does make that sort of pack, as you said, between, like 4 and 8, where especially with the 3-point system, it's just going to be so tight.
It's going to be incredibly tight. It's going to be the most competitive season I think I've known at this level.
Yeah, it's I say with what they've got, and you say trying to finish 8th. Do you think that they're thinking they could maybe sneak a playoff place? But they're going to have to get incredibly lucky. They're going to have to finish higher than 8th, I think, because I don't think they're going to have a chance against the league winners.
Well, yeah, there is that, but I suppose you've got to be in it to win it, haven't you? I think the plan for every team will be to get into that final 8 for the playoffs, but I think that out of all the seasons of most recent times, this is their chance to get into that playoff picture. But yeah, you're right. I can't see them progressing any further than that, but it'll be credit to them to get to that position to play in them games. So
yeah. Their website doesn't appear to be functioning, actually. It looks like it's gone offline. But it appears to be £10 a ticket, which, when you've got so much hockey on offer in Sheffield, that you can't really complain at £10 a ticket.
No, definitely not. Sheffield's a great facility as well. Like you say, you've got the Steel Dogs and the Steelers. In the Steel Dogs play in the same facility. The Steelers play across the park or across the road, however you want to say it. It's not bad value at all, is it? Can't grumble at it.
You can't grumble at it. And like I say, I think with what they've added, they've got a pretty full roster as well. So they're not like they're going to be struggling for numbers.
No, they have struggled in the past where we've seen players have had to come up from the Titans, or where they've played a game for the Titans and then had to play for the Sims and things like that, which is only good for in terms of development and things like that. But you want to be at a competitive level where your players are rested and ready to go, not kind of just shoved into a lineup.
No.
So I think with the additions that they've had, I think it's going to be a good season for them. I think better than they've had previously.
Absolutely. Right, there's 3 teams to go. I'm aware we're probably cracking on a little bit now. People listening along, if you're doing your commute or whatnot, you're probably already there. But we'll crack through these last few teams and down towards the West Midlands. The Solihull Barons. These were my tip for the title last year. And it was close. I think it was only a couple of points in the end because
I think 2, yeah. I think 2.
Sort of fell off. So surely silverware is their target this year.
It has to be, doesn't it? I think they're a force of a team. They've had a core group of players for a long time. They've got, to be honest with you, they're extremely well drilled. When you watch them warm up, they know exactly where to be. It's impressive to watch, to be fair. They've got good hockey IQ. They know where they need to be. The roster has it all. Physical, capable of scoring, very good top 6. A massive loss for them is Richard Crowe. He's gone down under. Sydney Bears, I think he's playing for. I don't watch much Australian hockey at all, so I can't really comment on the standard, but he's made the move down there. A massive positive for the Barons is Nicholas Otterson. He's such a fantastic player. There was lots of rumours about him going to other teams. Luckily for the Barons, he hasn't done. Over 100 points across the league in the playoffs last season.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Not a lot of players at our level do that. He's definitely the best import in this league and arguably the best player in the league. I'd argue it's Adam Barnes, but I suppose that the stats say differently, I guess. But yeah, they've done well to keep hold of him. Like I said, there were lots of rumours he was going to move elsewhere, but I can't remember how old he is. He's not 35. He's early 30s, I think. So he's not. I suppose in sport terms he's getting on a little bit, but he's still a fantastic player. And well, with Alice Padelette playing at 44, he's got a lot of room yet left to play, hasn't he? Really.
Yeah, one of those sports that obviously the brain's the last thing to go, I suppose, isn't it? So once they keep hold of that, once the legs are gone, the brain can do the work.
Exactly.
I mean, keeping Phil Lee on, as you say, they're so well drilled that Phil Lee's just got them, as you say, knowing exactly what they're doing at all times. They'll have a pre-season friendly, the same as they did last year against the Oxford City Stars.
Yeah.
Not entirely sure how many they'll be taking up to Solihull on Saturday night, but time will tell on that one. But I think that was quite a close game last year. So I think it was 3-2 to the Barons in the end.
In terms of the pre-season game?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I can't mind the scoreline on that, but they'll definitely be in the mix of the playoffs. I think they might be one of the 2 teams you'll see. Along with Otterson, there was the brothers, Phil and Dan Mulcahy. Again, I apologise if I'm butchering your names. Great calibre of players. Again, superb hockey IQ. They seem to work really well with Otterson, who plays that sort of Swedish style where he gets lost in the offensive zone, which is one of the reasons he picks up so many goals. They've also got a fantastic netminder in Graham Laverick, top 3 netminder in this league. Pretty stacked roster as well. Certainly going to be title contenders and playoff contenders. If I had to put a number on it, I think they'll finish second. I think you can probably guess which team I think is going to win the league, but I'm not going to commit to saying it. But the ones to watch for the Barons this season is obviously Nicholas Otterson. Fantastic player. If you ever get a chance to go and watch them, he's definitely worth watching. Graham Laverick between the pipes, fantastic netminder. Not good to be on the opposition team because he pulls off some absolutely fantastic saves, but great talent. And also Charlie Webb as well. He's one to watch as well. He'll be a good player.
Yeah, like I say, I think they'll be up there as well. Within that top three, as I said, my top three will be Blackburn, Solihull, and Deeside. I'm not entirely sure on the order, but definitely those three.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they'll be up there. £12.50 a ticket, which is again great value. It probably will be subject to the 12% Planet Ice fee if you're booking online, which you should do because it's not a massive rink and they are becoming increasingly popular, the Solihull Barons.
Yeah.
As you say, by keeping that roster together, and their social media stuff is brilliant.
Yeah, they've stepped it up massively. What do you think of the change of logo they've done for this season? I like it.
Yeah, I do like it actually. It's cause they've got like quite a large sort of corporate sponsorship now, haven't they? So they've got the sort of the fleur de lis thing that they've got for.
Yeah, they've had that previously. That was their old logo, so I guess it's kind of a nod back to that. But I think it just looks clean and fresh, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, we're talking about the Deeside Dragons having their 50th anniversary. I've got to do some quick maths here. I think next year will be the Solihull Barons' 60th.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Will be the reasoning behind going to the old school badge. I did like the logo last year with the Baron with the big hockey stick coming out.
Yeah, coming down. Yeah, cool. It was a cool logo.
Dynamic, but yeah, I love it. All things retro.
Oh yeah.
So when it comes to hockey, I mean, Chelmsford have gone for 3 quality retro jerseys this year, which I'm looking forward to seeing. So yeah, anything retro really gets me going.
Yeah, how much are you looking at a jersey for Chelmsford?
£55, I think, for a jersey.
That's not bad value at all.
It's not bad. They're made by Bench Buddy, which is not my favourite of the, the sort of the brands that do this. The cut is quite good on them. The printing quality is good. But yeah, I like a jersey 53.
Yeah, all right, yeah. Good, both good manufacturers.
Yeah, I mean that's something that really gets touched on at this level is the incredible work that they do. They've got so many jerseys to get done. The Dynamis guy does so many teams and so many things. Some of the designs they do as well. I know with Solent last year, their coach Alex Murray went out to New Jersey, and New Jersey were playing in their retro.
Ah, the one with Jersey across it, yeah.
So, and he gave it to the Dynamis guys like, I want this. He copied it so brilliantly, but obviously with subtle differences to avoid any sort of copyright or cease and desist letters.
Then don't get me sued subtleties, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's always good to see. And I mean, if any of them are listening, congratulations and thank you so much for all the hard work you do, you jersey suppliers, with fitting out all the teams and all the fans alike. So let's move then back further up north for a wild old time.
Witness Wild.
The Witness Wild, again, a good amount of retentions, but they have lost a couple of their sort of their big names. But who really stands out for you in the retentions?
To be honest with you, not many. They're not going to have a great season. I think they're going to have a very, very tough season. I can't see them finishing any higher than 8th, but to be honest, in my sort of like league table I've done, I think they're finishing bottom. The way it stands currently, unless they have a massive influx of players come into it. There was a lot last season that happened. There was an off-ice incident at the rink. I don't know if you saw anything about that. That was
a leak, wasn't there? From a carbon monoxide leak. I did speak with one of the players who was playing that night, and he said it was horrific. He'd never felt anything like it.
Yeah, I spoke to the lads from Drop the Puck who used to cover the games, and they said that they'd felt like really unwell with it. So that's not good to see. So they had that went on last season, and they were signing a lot of young Scottish lads on 2 ways to bolster their roster up a little bit last season, and a couple of players were dropped and sacked, however you want to word it, by text by Joey Coulter. Not a great move, but he's a young player coach, and I'm sure he has learned from it. He is a nice guy, Joey, so I'm sure he's learned from that mistake. Just a quick shout out to Callum Ruddock as well. He was one of those players, but he didn't do so badly. He ended up at the Hawks with 3 trophies, so nice one, Joey.
They have just announced tonight the signing of Robbie Thompson from the Paisley Pirates, who was part of their youth setup. So yeah, that's adding another forward into their forward line.
There does seem to be quite a big Caledonian contingent coming. From the players that they've lost, Joey Coulter, big loss. he's back with the Solway Sharks. He is a National League player. He's a very capable player at that standard. I can't see him being in the top 6. I think he'll be a bottom 6 guy, but you need those to win games and win playoff places, don't you? So big loss for the Wild. I think he was a top point scorer last season. Matt Barlow, a very, very good top 6 player, probably first line player. At this level, he's not signed for anyone yet, so I'm not sure where he's going to end up. At this point, I'm not sure if he's going to be at the Wild next season, and if he's not, that's a massive, massive loss for them. I think, again, he was in the top 3 for points for the Wild, so I think that's a big loss for them. Also, Kyle Carruth as well. He's gone up and he's on a 2-way with the Solway Sharks and the Glasgow Clan, so that shows the calibre you've lost there. He's got a very bright career ahead of him.
They played the other night, didn't they? They played each other, the Sharks and the Clan.
Yeah, Saturday and Sunday they had 2 games down at the Dumfries Ice Bowl. The Glasgow Clan, the uniforms looked absolutely fantastic. If you get a chance to have a look on social media, they looked absolutely fantastic. I mean, coming from a family with a lot of Scottish family members and things like that, I'd love to see a bit of tartan on a jersey, and they look fantastic. So if you get a chance to have a look at them, and I think the Sharks have got a tartan jersey as well, which is always good to see.
And anything that can get the Clan away from looking like the Globo Gym Purple Cobras.
What is it? Yeah, that purple and black. What a great film that is. I don't know if you ever saw that ESPN thing that they did. I think it might have been during COVID, where they said, it's 20 years today since Globo Gym lost the Dodgeball World Finals or something. And ESPN put it out. I thought that was a superb bit of content. Back to the Wild. They're very low on numbers, aren't they? Like if you look on elite prospects and things like that. Hockey's a physical sport, so depth is very, very important, and they've not got a lot of it at the minute.
I'm with you. I think they are going to struggle this year, but especially if we keep adding with the extra teams, the extra games. It's I think it'll be a struggle for them.
I think ones to watch from looking at the roster will be Bailey Thompson. He's Owen Ray as well. They're both on 2-ways with the Solway Sharks. So with that time, with Joey being there, he's obviously built a lot of relationships up with them clubs, which is only benefiting British hockey in the long run, isn't it? Getting more players ice time. There's also Damani James. He played for the Hawks for a season. He'll be one to watch as well. He's a good player. He goes a little bit under the radar sometimes, but he's a good player. But I really do think that the Wild will struggle. I did wonder at the end of last season and sort of moving towards this season, whether they might drop down back to Div 2. Obviously, with the things that had happened off ice, the players leaving, all that kind of thing. I'm glad they didn't, because local rivalries are good.
Yeah.
It's really not that far. It's not a bad little rink as well, Widnes. There's a lot of stuff on the retail park, so you can make an afternoon of it when you're going to watch the hockey as well. But I wouldn't have been surprised if they made the drop down, but I'm glad they haven't. So it's good to see them still in the league and competing. But I really can't see them doing any higher than 8th. But I think they'll finish bottom as it stands currently, without a couple of decent signings coming in. I can't see it.
Well, I mean, similar to the MK Thunder in the Britain division, it's going to be the games against Leeds Knights, the Scimitars. They're going to be the games that sort of do, and the Nottingham Lions, they're going to be the games where they can try and get their points from.
Yeah, definitely.
Judge them for not getting points off the Hawks or the Stars or the Dragons. So if they can sort of put a good showing up in them games, that can certainly give a little bit of excitement to their home and their travelling fans as well.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I love the rivalry with the Wild, and I hope they can find a way to improve. I just can't see it.
No. But as you say, good to see them still in the league.
100%, yeah.
Right then, let's get on to the final team in the Moralee Division, all the way up to the W's, very far up north. It's very cold indeed. Whitley Bay Warriors. Again, a lot of returnees and a very experienced new signing in a young Scotsman who looks about 40, Ethan Reid.
Yeah.
He knows.
He was one of the names I was going to mention. Yeah.
He knows I'm only kidding. He's a cracking lad. He's played all over the country.
Yeah.
He's so calm on the puck. He was one of the things I think that he could be doing really well for Whitley is on the power play, because he was fantastic for Chelmsford on the power play.
Yeah.
Also, should they ever go to overtime, he was always the defenseman. As soon as it went 3-on-3, it was at Chelmsford. It was Ethan Reid and the Bartletts. Would
you say he's a defensive defenseman or a two-way defenseman?
I think he's he puts points up.
Yeah, I was going to say, was it 11 last year or something, I think? Yeah. 11th on points or something.
Yeah, I think last year he was even better because he joined the Raiders and then came back after a couple of months. I don't think he was really enjoying his hockey there, so he came back and he was even better when he came back for that second half of the season just before the last one. But, yeah, I think he's going to be a real boost for them, actually, that can really increase their points coming from other areas, which I think when you improve a roster, that's what you need to do, is you need to add points in areas that you're not getting points from. Yeah,
of course you do. You need to increase your secondary scoring, don't you? Because every team's got a top line that they can rely on, but when you're picking up points throughout your roster, it's needed, especially at our level. And like you said, with the point system changing, them extra players further down your roster that are going to be chipping in, it's vital now.
And coming in, I mean, even though I think he's a bit more of a two-way D-man, but just coming in D with that experience, defence is going to be so important, especially when it's more competitive. Looking at the league table from last year, every team apart from Billingham conceded at least 100 goals.
Yeah, I think we were like 101 or something.
Back when we're bang on 100.
Yeah.
But over the course of the season, with the amount of games, it averages out to kind of like, I think it's like 3.9 goals per game averagely that were being conceded. But then Billingham, who won the league, was scoring an average of 5.7 every game. So if you can sort of bring those numbers down a little bit from the teams that are at the top of the league scoring less against the lower teams, and then the lower teams getting that secondary scoring up, that's going to make it a lot more of an even keel.
Yeah, no, I agree with that completely. I mean, in terms of the Warriors, they've got a very recognisable name on the bench, haven't they, with Tony Hand? Okay. I'm still waiting for the day that he just has enough and suits up himself and jumps over the boards. You never know, do you?
Would that be the first MBE to take to the ice in this league?
Potentially, yeah, I think so. I don't think there's many more been there. But, yeah, he's a very experienced person in this country in terms of ice hockey. I don't think there's got as many qualifications as him in terms of actual experience. No, he's been there and done it, hasn't he?
As you say, he's such a name that anybody that area of the country is accessible to, you're going to want to go and play under Tony Hand.
Yeah, definitely. Which is why I was surprised when he came in. There wasn't as many new additions as there were. He obviously had his plan and knew what he wanted to do, but there were some players that at the start of the season hadn't come back. Dean Holland, Jordan Barnes, who were sort of not household names, but unanimous names with that league. Like you recognise them. They've been there a long time. They decided to step away for whatever reason. Halfway through the season, they came back, which gave them that. They had a very inconsistent year. They were very up and down. I think they won more games than they lost, but it wasn't far off in terms of the numbers.
Yeah.
So it gave them a boost when they came back, and they've retained some of those players. They've come back for this season as well. Dean Holland, Jordan Barnes, Philip Edgar as well, who's a fantastic player. We've also kept Harry Harley, Kyle Ross. Them three have been with the Warriors for a long time now, a good few years. So again, a very experienced team and a core that have been together for a long time.
Yeah.
Some of those players are aging, if you will, your likes of Dean and Jordan. They're still very capable of putting up points, but when you're coming up against teams that have a lot of young lads that are on two ways with national teams, and the speed and the intensity, is that a factor potentially? So it'd be interesting to see how it plays out for the Warriors. I can see them having a similar finish to last season, between sort of 4th and 6th. In my chart, I've got them at 6th.
Yeah, I think, as you say, where that you can have your top 3, possibly top 4, I think they're going to top that second section.
Yeah.
Where it's going to be, but it could even go down to goal difference, because I think it could well be that tight.
It's going to be extremely close. Hopefully we're well away by that point. But yeah, it's going to be the most competitive season at this level, I think, as there's been, I think, which when you're saying tickets varying from £8 all the way up to 13, it's not bad value for money at all.
No, it's not. And as you say, when everything else seems to be going up, it's nice to see that. I think a lot of the teams, Hull Jets were actually one of them, the prices have been frozen from last year, which I think a lot of the teams have done that, which is fantastic to see. Not only does it correlate well with an ice-related sport to free.
So what you did there.
It's great for the fans as well. So, I mean, those 10 teams, I think, as you say, this level, the third tier of hockey in this country is so exciting to watch. Those teams that are streaming it on YouTube, please take advantage of that. If you're not able to make the game, and even if they're charging for the stream, pay for it, because they don't put this product on when it's crap. If they're charging for it, they've got it down. And
there's a lot of investment involved and a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes. Like with the Hawks stuff we did last year, it takes a lot of time up, and you know yourself, we're doing the playoffs. There's a lot goes on behind the scenes, and the money can really benefit clubs if they were to look at doing streams for games.
Yeah, I'm hoping to. I haven't spoke to any of the clubs yet, but I'm hoping to get to a few away games this year and see if they will allow me to stream on my YouTube, just platform from where I'm going to. It's not going to be, close-ups and replays and whatnot. It'd be quite primitive. But just to get the hockey out there to as many people as possible, and they not for them to say, oh, I want him to get better at this so I can sit at home and watch it. For them to watch it and say, this is exciting, I want to go.
Yeah, it's getting eyes on the sport and getting that attractive sport that it is out to people, out to the masses. And do you know what? I'll give it a go. And then when you look at the price of tickets, it's win-win.
Yeah, absolutely. And with the growth of it as a whole, you've got the female side in Blackburn now.
Yeah, they do, yeah.
They took part in the friendly tournament, I think, in Sheffield over the summer.
Darren, who's one of the coaching staff for the Hawks as well, he's also the head coach of the juniors. So he puts a lot of time in. Darren Wilson is called. He deserves a lot of credit. And they've not had a women's team at Blackburn for a long time, from my understanding. So it's good to see them. They're very in the development stages. I think the only competitive games they've had is that tournament in Sheffield and one against a male rec team. But it's good to see.
Yeah, Darren
good to see.
Darren was on ZPG Ice Maidens with Adam Mackman when he was covering that Sheffield tournament, and he said much the same. The girls are developing. They're not taking absolute spankings. They're putting in a really good showing every time they get on the ice. And then with all the stuff they're doing with the women's league, with the development style, with the new development league that's coming in as well, and a lot of the teams that have been in that, they're only in there 1 or 2 seasons, and then they're jumping straight in. And
that's what you want to see, isn't it?
WNIHL is increasing in both popularity and skill level every year. Yeah,
definitely. I've got to give a shout out to Adam as well. He's an incredibly nice guy. I've listened to the podcast a couple of times, so good work from you both on that one. He's a Whitley fan. No one's perfect. But he's a very nice guy, and anyone listening to this that's not listened to that yet, I'd highly recommend you check it out. Yeah, highly recommend it.
More audio working than I do, that's for sure. Yeah, it does. It all sounds fantastic. And of course, anyone that's in the north, keeping your eye on Blackburn. You've got the Hawks talk there. You got some stuff planned for this year for that?
Yeah, we're going to try and do it a little bit more frequent than we did last year. Got very busy with covering the games and sort of like getting my head around the commentating aspect of it. So now I've kind of like got that down to a bit of a science, I guess. We're going to try and do some more Hawks Talk episodes this year. We get great relationship, obviously being an official club podcast. So we get players on whenever we want to, and they get told they're doing it as well.
I have to rely on my charm.
Oh, you're a charming man, Ben. Charming man. Charm me on. You tried to convince me to come on, and you've done it.
It took me a couple of years, but I got you. I mean, it's also worked in that, coming out, I think it's probably going to be coming out in a couple of weeks, but I've got Emma Molte from PWHL Toronto coming on.
I saw that.
early part of this season, which is just absolutely incredible. The fact to get one of the American pros, or Canadian, beg my pardon, but from the North American Professional League to get a Canadian pro on is just mind blowing. And we've been speaking for a couple of weeks, and we've got it all sorted and got our date booked.
Fantastic.
Very much looking forward to speaking to Emma. Not only a Olympic gold medalist, a 3-time world champion, and an unfortunately a runner-up in the inaugural PWHL playoff finals. Blew it in true Toronto style.
You're a Leafs fan, aren't you? I think is that you?
Yeah.
I'm a Penguins fan for my sins. There's one question I've got for you. We spoke about this off air briefly, but I want to sort of turn the tables round now.
Okay.
Does ice hockey belong to the north or the south?
Well, this year we're going to find out. Because obviously with this historic playoff finals idea that apparently we spawned, we'll take credit.
Yeah, 100%.
I think the problem is you haven't been able to gauge it properly because you've had more teams in the league than we have, so you can't really look at the thing. As far as the National 1 title stands, it belongs to the South. Streatham Redhawks have got that trophy locked up at the High Road.
Every credit to them. I mean, they had a couple of tough fixtures, didn't they, against the Solway Sharks? I think they were due a win as well.
Yeah, I think, and it was the one, I mean, regardless of the fact they won 3 of the other trophies as well in the league season, that was the one they really wanted.
Yeah, definitely, especially with how close they get, like the first game against Solway, the second game, they lost and been quite spectacular to the Sharks. They were the much better team, but they were the much better team against the Stars. There's no denying that. They gave them a bit of a lesson at times.
It was ironic that was the only time they went in not as playoff champions, though.
Ah, okay.
When they went in against the Sharks the first 2 times, they were league and playoff champions. This year, they weren't playoff champions. So maybe that having that little bit of extra sort of mental relaxation. Because they, in all honesty, after I spoke to the guys from Streatham when we were commentating on the playoff finals at Ali Pali, they were mentally beaten by Solent in the semi-finals. It wasn't just physically and on the ice; they were mentally beaten.
They're a tough team to play against, aren't they, Streatham? So for a team to step up and be able to do that, it's impressive, especially on that stage as well. Yeah,
I think the problem was also when I spoke to Alex Murray afterwards, that mentally exhausted the Devils for the following.
Yeah.
Then when they were 1 down inside of a minute, you could see it's already gone to pot.
Yeah, they put too much into. That's the trouble sometimes with them. The weekends like that, because it's all or nothing hockey, isn't it? It's one game. You've not got a return leg to turn it round.
No, and obviously what we're going to see this year, for anyone who has been living under a rock and not seen it, the playoffs will go in both the Moralee and the Britain Division. Top 8, quarterfinals, 2 legs, semi-finals, 2 legs, and then the North and South finals will be on the Saturday at a special venue that no one knows just yet. And then the North winner and the South winner from both 1 and 2 will then play on the Sunday, so that's going to be a fantastic weekend of hockey, and I'm already looking forward to that, not even knowing.
Definitely. Yeah, it's going to be good. I've got a little fact for you, which I think kind of trumps the North v South thing.
Go on.
Strap yourself in. First off, I suppose Scotland classes as the North. There's the whole shinties on ice thing, in terms of where the game was invented.
Yeah.
What would you say is the biggest cup inside ice hockey globally? Apart from, obviously, the North v South title.
What, not the Stanley Cup?
Yeah, Stanley Cup. Lord Stanley was referred to as Lord Stanley of Preston.
Oh, see.
He was a Conservative MP for Preston, North Lancashire and Blackpool, I think. And then he went out and I think it was something to do with trade. Hang on, here we go. Board of Trade, and appointed as Governor General of Canada. And then I think 2 of his sons played hockey, I think, and then he donated the Stanley Cup.
Wow. Wonders will never cease. Tories in the Northwest.
I know, well. I was going to say something then.
That's a different podcast entirely, that is.
Oh, yeah. I don't think we've got that long.
No, and we've taken up quite a fair bit of time on the airways, actually, with almost as much as the review from last season when we obviously you come on and reviewed the Moralee and Chris Beale reviewed the Britain with me, and I sort of started both chats by saying, let's not do a big 2-hour episode, and it ended up being like a Joe Rogan.
Sorry.
No need to apologise. It's always good information, and it's always good to shine a little light on the north from the south, because it is kind of like that unknown from a lot of the southern fans. But obviously this year, I think it's so historic that we're going to get to know finally who hockey belongs to in two senses. We're going to get obviously the league champions still going head-to-head at Coventry, but we're going to have this historic playoff weekend in April that everyone's looking forward to. Graham, thank you so much for giving me your time this evening. It's always a pleasure to chat.
Anytime.
Best of luck with the Hawks talk for the rest of the season, and of course your work on the fantastic 4,000 accounting. We always love hearing what Nicky's getting up to. It's never a dull moment.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
Thank you for your time, mate. I'll see you again.
See you later, buddy. Take care.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.